What's going on, guys? Welcome to my channel, and in this video I'm going to talk to you guys about the else, break and continue options that are available in for loops. Alright, so let's get started. Earlier we were looking at the for loops in Python, and what your for loop needs is it needs the for loop keyword, some variable, can be I, and then we use the word in, and then we need some kind of an iterator. Technically, an iterator is nothing but some function or a class or some list or list tuple or some data type which can give multiple values, and you run them every time, right? Now you can give some kind of an iterator like this, and then what you do, you can access the value of the iterating variable every time. All right, and now this way what will happen is that and I run this little piece of code, I'll get the iterating value I get a different iterating value every time I run this. With this, I can actually do some stuff with it, right? Now what I'm going to do is, like, we're going to talk about some of the other components that are available for loop. One of them is the else statement, and you might be wondering, else statement, yeah. For this particular implementation of for loop in Python has this else statement available. What it will do is that it will try to execute all the for loop all the statements that are inside the for loop, right, for every iterating value, and then once that particular for loop is over, let's say if you want certain set of values to be done, then you put it over here. For instance, if I were to say print I is iterating values are over, you put like this, check this out, and I run this little piece of code, what do I get is I get all the iterating values 0 to 9, just like I gave it over here, and it prints out this statement, iterating values are over. So essentially, else statement gives you a little bit of room to execute certain statements as a part of the for loop once the looping is done, right? So that's how we go about with it. Now what else is available is that you have this break statement available for loops. Now what does that mean? Let's say that for a particular value of I, you want to break the for loop, let's say particular value, let's say you can use this. Let me give an example. Let's say I'm creating a list L1, and that will equals, say, how do I put it? Okay, hydrogen, helium, lithium, for the first three elements in the periodic table. And if I were to say for let's say for element, when I say element, that's the iterating variable I'm using here, and I say for element in L1, I put a colon, and I will say if element equals let's say helium, what do? I can break the statement off. I can, just to tell that I'm breaking the statement, I will say print encountered helium, and then if I say break, okay, check this out, I come in this part of the code. Now if I run this little piece of code, check this out, it starts with okay, oh, it didn't print hydrogen over here. Okay, so let me print element, okay. So it prints out hydrogen and then helium, and then instead of printing lithium, because it came across helium, it reprints the statement encountered helium and then breaks, right? And there you go. This way you have an option to break the loop with this break keyword. On the other hand, you have an option to do something else too. I'm going to put another one over here called as pass, right? I'll talk about that too. What this keyword continue does is that it helps you to do some kind of operation operation. It helps you do some kind of operation and prevent the loop from doing a certain operation in certain cases. I'll talk to you guys this in a moment very clearly. Let's say I'm going to call the same element loop for element in L1. Let's say if element equals the same condition helium. Okay, if this element is helium, I'm just going to say continue else print element. Okay, to make sure that we have something noticeable over here, we'll print this encountered helium, so skipping. So this is what will happen. And I run this little okay, now I'll comment this. So when I run this little for loop, this is how it will go. First, every time this element will check with this if statement if it's helium. If it's not helium, it will just go and print the element. Cool. And now what will happen is that when it comes across helium, alright, it will just do this print statement and it will go to continue. The moment it goes to continue, what happens is that everything pertaining to that loop will go away. So for instance, if I were to break this loop and say print one iteration over with, let's say, element, and I put an F over here, this will make a lot more sense. So there you go. First it prints out, checks this if statement if it's helium. First element is hydrogen, so it's not. So these two statements don't count, and then what will happen is hydrogen gets printed, and then we use this print statement iteration over with hydrogen, right? And now look what happens. When it's turned for helium, this if statement becomes true, right? So this print statement gets printed out. So you get this encountered helium, so skipping, and then we like put this word continue. When this word comes into picture, what will happen is that the entirety of the for loop after this particular keyword gets gone, gets skipped, and because of this else part and this if print statement at the bottom, they are not going to work. They're not going to get executed at all, and then it'll directly jump to the next entry in the for loop. And in the next entry, since the next entry is not helium, this if statement will work, this print statement will work. This if statement will not work directly, this else statement, and this part of the loop will continue accordingly. Cool. And that's this way. If we want to skip a loop for some particular value, let's say, without breaking the loop, let's say, continue is useful. Essentially, that's where it is. So break is useful to break a loop when a particular condition is reached. Alright, whereas continue is used to skip the particular loop for a particular iteration of a loop for when a certain condition is reached. All of that, and if you notice, all of this they go hand in hand whenever you have an if statement. Alright, so essentially when you have if statements and all of that inside for loops, and that time you want to break the loop or skip a particular iteration, you go with this, right? Now that said, there's one more keyword that I wanted to talk to you guys about: pass. Now pass is pretty simple. What will that help is that it'll just helps you to run code without any information in it. For instance, if I were to say for element in L1, if I just say pass, this is valid, right? So if I were to comment this little piece of code and I run this, this will work just valid. So on the other hand, if I were to just enter an empty statement like this will throw an error. It says unexpected end of file while parsing, because the moment you put this for loop like this without giving any statements into it, the Python program will understand that there's something is missing and will throw an error, right? In these kind of cases, for testing and debugging and all of that, if you put the keyword pass, even if there isn't any entry over there, it will just going to bypass this entire loop and thinking that there is something, or that is something to be taken care of, that, or it will just assume that maybe something the user might come and write it later. Pass is definitely useful when you're coming across functions where like if you want to write an empty function, test out some conditions and all of that, you can use the pass statement over here to do something about it. All right, now that said, with this I'm concluding this for loops, and now in the next program we'll actually write something little fascinating, and we'll actually write some little bit of an application program. All right, I think we have covered enough of list, tuples and dictionaries, and we're ready for the next program. All right, so stay tuned.